Hey there, Adrienne Elise here. Welcome to the Gaia update for May 17th through 21st, 2021. Well, we are just coming off of the intense squeezing feeling we've been feeling with Mars in Cancer in square to Chiron in Aries. It's been quite the pressure cooker and really pushing us to the edge of where we haven't been really living, where we haven't been living our truth, where we gave our power away, where we haven't allowed ourselves to be nurtured in this world. And so much is coming to the table right now. It's a really, of course, 2021, the astrology saga continues. Today, what we're feeling exact is really interesting, coming off of this intense squeeze of just kind of facing everywhere where you feel powerless, and the vulnerabilities that come from that. And a lot of this has to do right now with this next transit. Venus is right with the North Node for the next couple of days. And as soon as Venus went into retrograde, I felt this total rehash of the feeling that we got from the Venus retrograde that happened in May last year, June, and into July. Now, that Venus retrograde happened when the North Node in Gemini was at the end of Gemini. So the Venus retrograde all happened, and then it wasn't until August that Venus came up to that North Node. Now, Venus has returned to the North Node, and the North Node has moved to the first decan, which is the last decans of Gemini, since it moves backwards. So it's only got the last 10 degrees of North Node in Gemini. And so it's kind of like, what is this all about? It started with that Venus retrograde. That was right when everything was getting really crazy in the world. And it's this feeling of like the rug being pulled out from under you, right? I don't know where I'm going. I had these plans and now I can't move forward. And, it's a really uncomfortable place, particularly for SuperNova Souls. And we'll get into this. It has to do with this upcoming total lunar eclipse in Sagittarius. But so much of who you are and who you have come to be in your identity throughout lifetimes has to do with your mission and purpose here on Earth. And right now, the Venus retrograde, all starting last year, it was a complete challenge to our ego constructs about who we are and who we think what we're doing here. It's actually really good. It's this ego death but it's all tied up in grief and responsibility and feelings of so-called failed responsibility. This is the Sagittarius South Node energy, because you can't have a North Node trigger, conjunction like we just had Mercury North Node, Mercury opposite the South Node, and such intense timing with that Mars square Chiron of facing where you gave your power away and all the stories. So Sagittarius is the epic journey. It's the mission. It's the purpose. It's like reaching out beyond reality to new ideas, new information, new horizons, right? It's got this feeling of purpose. Now, this has all been challenged because we haven't been able to move in the same direction the way we were, and it makes sense because it's like, oh yeah, that's frustrating and we don't know what we're doing, but we don't want to go the same way. We don't want to do it the same. We can't actually, because we're at the end of the road of the 3D energies and what we can't create there anymore. It's not working for us. So it's actually really beneficial for us to go through this ego death of everything that we thought we lived for and who we are and our profession and the direction we're going and our plans. Not very comfortable, but absolutely necessary because it's a whole new world ahead. So it's interesting because when last week Venus moved into Gemini and it was kind of like, oh God, back to this feeling. And what am I doing? Where am I going? I was just starting to maybe think I was coming out of this strange hole, And it's interesting. It almost feels like from that Venus retrograde last year, we were like pulled out, about April, May leading up to that. It's like we were pulled out of this timeline and we've been in a holding pattern, treading water. It feels like for advanced souls, a straitjacket. of limitation. And indeed, for the collective, I think this whole part of our evolution right now is this lowering of the ceiling through technological control in an effort to keep us from our spiritual insight, our spiritual connection, and everything is working against it. But we're at the season of the boomerang. And this is where this shift right here today of the North Node in Gemini, Venus North Node in Gemini, and it's kind of like, oh, can we slip back on to our timeline, but it's been adjusted to better suit. Now it's like, oh, that's why I was so lost, because I'm supposed to go this way. And that makes so much sense. And wait, there's the people, there's the things I need. This is where we're at, right? We're on this big shift, but it's like a 6-month shift. It has a lot to do time-wise with the Saturn square Uranus. Saturn and Uranus became exact square in February, but we felt it all the way from mid-January. Saturn, our manifest world, but in Aquarius, confused about how to build with plasma, like how to build in this new world. What are the laws? What are the rules? Saturn, there's no ground under the feet. And then square Uranus, which is a revolution, the ruler of Aquarius, a revolution energy in around wealth, value, self-worth. And so it's like the way our world changes and we start to build in the Aquarian energies and the Aquarian age has everything to do with the hidden wealth within the souls of, the soul of human soul, the human soul in a body, the wealth of energy, free energy that's ours to have by birthright. It's in our own body, right? So we cannot get into the next phase of building until we get free energy, basically. And how do we get free energy? Well, it's a very interesting thing with the microcosm, macrocosm, like within you, as you have your revolution of wealth and you start, maybe that direction you were going that wasn't working, wasn't actually fully valuing your set of gifts and skills because you didn't understand how they could be used. You didn't have the other people that are the puzzle pieces to your projects. And so it'll be interesting to see, because the Saturn square Uranus, which seems to be like, you guys can't go any further till we have this revolution of wealth. And that's advanced souls standing up in their strength of soul purpose, not for a specific role that you might have been attached to in a past life that got interrupted. This is what's working out for the South Node Sagittarius. It's like, and maybe that's this ego death process for the spiritual soul on earth right now of like, but I thought I was doing it this way. And I thought I was really, I thought I knew where I was going. I had this idea, like, and then the feeling of being so lost when those structures, but those are the old world structures. And that's exactly this astrology. So Saturn and Uranus, this conflict between how to move forward and build in the new and our low self-worth around our energetic presence and our energetic wealth. And what really matters in this world. It really is a challenge to our attachment to the physical. So no wonder we've had to go through this ego death experience. Now, Saturn and Uranus come back together exact next month from the 13th to the 18th of June. So this is a culmination. It's kind of like the pressure of this wealth revolution. We cannot go further till we get it. What's keeping it from happening? And so we'll be exploring these themes, really powerful and profound. Now, Saturn square Uranus does not come completely off the influence of that until the end of July. And so the third week in July. So this is a time, January through July, the 6-month period of time, mid-January to mid-July, this is this chapter we're in, where we're trying to get out of the corner. And so it's very powerful June because we've got this next exact square of these planets together, and very, very powerful. We were just starting to feel this come back into play because Saturn is slowing down, preparing for a retrograde. So this is the energy of like Saturn going, wait a minute, I'm not clear on how to move forward in this new energy. And what that means is that as it slows down, it's going to get closer, to Uranus, and they're just a couple of degrees apart until this next week, and then they'll be 1 degree apart for the last week of May and the whole month of most of the month of June. So this is the backdrop of what's going on. We're up against the wall, humanity, and how do we get there? Now, so many of us, the more truth the more you've studied, the more you've researched, that you're open to the fact that we've been manipulated on the huge levels around our history, our financial systems, our science, and so you might be familiar, you might be open enough to consider and find this, as we search for truth in these crazy times, say that 9/11 was an inside job, or that there's massive corruption and that just goes on, and or that the health industry is actually a death industry, right? And so you're aware of these things, and so there's an uncomfortable, it's like searching for more truth, but also uncomfortable truths with what you know already. And what's happening right now, see, we're just in a shift right now, which is interesting, because coming out of that squeeze of Mars square Chiron, and now we're coming into the second squeeze of Saturn square Uranus. And so these are our square tensions, like we're at the end of the road. We can't keep going the way we're going, right? We got to choose a lane. We got to pick a path. We got to live or die. And these truths are becoming more and more evident in our world, except for that humanity is choosing not to see. And this is the next chapter. And it's hard because it's like, wait a minute, we've been here in this uncomfortable place for long enough, right? But this is the squeeze, because Mercury just went into retrograde shadow this weekend and preparing to take a retrograde that starts on the 29th. And that'll go through just a couple of days after the solstice. In that period of time with this Mercury retrograde in Gemini, it's home sign of Gemini, which is about adjusting the mind, exploring options, trying to find truth, trying to communicate, trying to talk things through. And so it's wild because, Mercury's last retrograde was in Aquarius, trying to figure out this square. We're stuck. How do we get there? We're at the end of the road going the way we're going in this evolution. And so Mercury in Gemini, Mercury as a mutable sign, is, like I said, an adjustment, changing, rearranging, so Mercury home in Gemini is a complete rearranging of our perspective and our reality. So I'm guessing that this Mercury retrograde period of time, we're already moving into the shadow. And then for the next 6 weeks, this Mercury retrograde is about like a slow drip, a continual drip, and maybe faster and faster, but, of truths coming out in the world. And then, at some point there will be the dam that breaks. And I'm thinking that when Mercury turns direct, that happens on, like I said, to the 22nd of June. So just 2 days after the solstice. And so that's kind of the energy of like, whoa. But Saturn will have turned retrograde and Jupiter will be turning retrograde. So it's almost like, hold on, you guys, this way isn't going to get us where we want to go. And what's the adjustment that needs to be made? Now, this is interesting because throughout this time with that Saturn square Uranus, Saturn's also making beneficial and interesting other transits. So maybe this can give us a clue of where we're at, because from May to mid-August, we're feeling Saturn in sextile to Chiron. So this is this trying to build in the new age sextile harmonious solutions with claiming back our life force. And this is the energy right now. It's a turnaround point. With Venus back to the North Node, it's like, oh, yeah, I couldn't go that way because that doesn't actually fit the bigger picture of who I am. You're uncovering your gifts and skills. You're uncovering your self-worth and permission, you know? And so this is like also saying we move forward and build in this new age by claiming back our life force and claiming back our permission for our power from all outside sources. Everything comes down to this. And that's what these transits are saying, because Saturn is also making just made an inconjunct relationship to Mars in Cancer. Saturn in Aquarius in conjunct Mars Cancer. Now that energy is an adjustment that needs to be made. And Mars in Cancer is this active nurturing, this compassion. And it's really what we need right now. It's like to face this next chapter of the truth's disclosure and the shifts and changes that come with this requires a lot of compassion for ourselves every moment of every day, in the difficulty of you being awake and all the sleeping people, and then compassion for those who have, for humans who have clung to the sinking ship in order to just kind of keep some sense of reality. But reality's got to change. And that's exactly this astrology. Now, it's interesting because we know that if you have followed truth movement right now, you know that when we get truth, that's just right there. It's so easy to find, even in mainstream news right now. If you're really looking and you really want to see, and the current crises that we're in right now, and we get to the bottom of those, then everything falls apart, going back to the whole history of humanity. And so this is really huge because we're coming up on, just before Mercury turns retrograde, we've got a total lunar eclipse. So we're officially in eclipse season. And eclipses are about something that wants to be revealed, right? It's like hidden and then revealed. And a total lunar eclipse, and the full moon is in Sagittarius, close to the South Node. That's what makes it total. And so this eclipse in Sagittarius speaks to the whole the nutshell of everything for the supernova soul, because Sagittarius has that seeking, has the purpose, has that mission, has that the epic journey of the spiritual mission, right? Energy. And it's a deep pain. The South Node is about the past and what's holding you back from the past. And so the ego death and the personality constructs and the getting pulled off of your purpose and mission and off of your, the whole world off its rails, has the bigger energy of this is sorting out this deeper problem that needs to be resolved. And there's a lot of grief in supernova souls around feeling like you didn't fulfill your mission. And this is South Node Sagittarius. So this full moon is like, you can't hide this feeling anymore. Let's get to the bottom of it. And guess what? The bottom of this is these disclosures of truth. Because if we get the truth about how we've been interfered with and manipulated by extraterrestrial energies throughout our whole evolution, these are the forces, not even extraterrestrial, but like higher evolutionary, but that controlling humanity, lesser evolved from where you came from. But you conceded your power in order to get here and stay here. And there's a deep grief inside that is like needs to be resolved. But when humanity gets like the full truth of how we've been interfered with, because you as a supernova soul came here to Earth with, I've been talking about how in order to even get here, you had to have such a strength of soul and you had such a devotion to this Earth evolution, because it was quite a feat to squeeze yourself down into this 3D reality. And you had to play small and you had to disconnect from your power in order just to survive. And it's all been about coming back into remembering who you really are and remembering that you're so much more powerful than these control forces, right? But supernova souls have been stuck in this hidden grief around failing in their mission on Earth. And this is the message, very powerful right now. This North Node, Venus North Node, it's your mission has not yet begun. You have not yet been supported in what you're here to do. Because as a light worker soul coming to the earth, you came in devotion and love and light. And that is a threat to those from all the way back in Atlantean time, those negative forces that sought to keep control over humanity and hold back the evolution, the spiritual evolution, right? But nothing can stop what's coming, and it's just getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And the lowering of the ceiling of the mechanical, technological grid is just that, mechanical and technological. And the light is organic. And it's coming into the heart and the DNA of souls, no matter what they try to do with this poison. And that's the message. It's like we've got to claim on to hope and faith. That's who you are as a soul, in knowing that there's so much more inside of you that has yet to be expressed, and that time is coming. And this last year, I sense a feeling in supernova souls of being in a holding pattern, in a straitjacket, kind of like, no, you guys, not time for you yet. You stay over there. And then we've had to look at these chains and ropes and energies that have held us back and be like, well, wait a minute. I don't concede to that. I don't agree with that. I see my power now. I see, but there's almost this like we got sucked out of the timeline and we're just treading water. And this Mars in Cancer is trying to move the stuck old grief, and South Node Sag just getting so triggered, and it feels like you can just get sucked right down in, But it's so important that we move this old grief, or we can never get back on our mission and purpose. Which it's not something specific. The South Node Sag grief has to do with a specific story that you weren't able to fulfill, probably time and time again. And you came right back. The warrior that you are, the spiritual warrior that you are, you know how to die. And you came right back. And then, but that remains unresolved, and a grief of this feeling of failure, except for that when we find, when the full truth comes out that we were like heavily manipulated and targeted, and like that validation, it wasn't your failure, you were going up against impossible odds. But this is where that mission impossible changes. This is the flip of the switch, as nothing can stop this awakening. So, but the South Node Sagittarius energy is coming up so huge, and yet it's an opportunity for this great redemption. And this is the message for supernova souls, is that hang tight, because what's going on, the reason why it's taking so long for truths and for this shift of consciousness we've been waiting for that will come with the truths, is because humanity has evolved, and humanity in its soul essence is pure and good and right and true. And we've evolved beyond the trauma and drama that they're trying to inflict on us. That's like clones and patsies and who knows what else is playing out these dramas of war and strife, and that's not where humanity's at. We've evolved beyond this. And so that's maybe where we have to have this compassion that humanity fell for these lies because they're that naive and trusting. And these are the most beautiful aspects of human culture. And that we as advanced souls who have been aware this whole time, or trying to find some truth or open to some truth, we're all going to get our minds blown, apparently. But we can hold space, for, and in this compassion for humanity, and bring as many souls as we can with us. Now, there's also a message coming through around souls choosing not that have compassion. It's really hard to watch the negative effects of this medical tyranny, but There's definitely a message coming through of compassion for each soul to make its choice. And in this journey of the timeline split or whatever's happening as we move towards these ascension energies. Now, the other message that's really important is that the reason it's taking so long to get truth is because these are very difficult truths. That narcissistic energy where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I fell for this. I can't believe I believed these lies. What's wrong with me, right? This is what humanity has to go through. But because humanity has evolved to a point where generally true human souls right now, they're good people. They don't want to hurt anybody. So they're asleep and, deliberately taking poison. But, it's like the message I'm getting is that what's happening in the timelines, and I can't explain it really, but you'll get the gist, hopefully, that the reason why we can't get this negative disclosure of all these lies and dark, dark, dark things, right? And we know we have to face them in order to move forward. Everything has shown us this. But the reason why it's taking so long is because of where humanity's at in this process of those who are moving over this threshold point together into this ascension, into higher frequency dimension, into whatever, the next place. The disclosures that will come with the bad disclosures and the scary disclosures, there's also like an equal amount. This is saying, so everything's folding back into one, which means that everything that looks negative is actually having a positive boomerang. This is when you get paid back sevenfold for what's been stolen from you. And we've all had stolen future. I mean, if we want to just look at this recent era of political history in the US and the assassination of JFK, that was a stolen future. That was the hope of humanity stolen from us. And we've had this again and again as these forces have interfered with the spiritual awakening of humanity. And so we don't get over this hump without getting back what was stolen, which is miracle healing technology, free energy, a financial system that works only above ground. It cannot support corruption and supports spiritual awakening. And it's all there waiting in the wings. And it's almost like we can't get the negative, the bad truths without the good truths. They have to come together because humanity needs that. So there's also an energy of like as bad and as dark as it looks, and there are people exiting through taking a very deliberate choice as a soul spirit to use this medical tyranny moment to exit out of this reality. They're either going on a mission to help souls in the future transitions, or they're just not quite ready, or they've got something else going on, right? And we have to have this active compassion for these souls, but we also have to know that everything that looks really bad right now is about to boomerang into the good. And that even this poison vax, which some will lose their life, some will overcome all disease. And because we're at the end of the road of that old paradigm. So maybe for us, 3D isn't working anymore to create. It's also not working for the negative entities to keep creating trauma and drama. It's not working. The energy isn't there to support it, right? And so we're at this crux point. And the crux point seems to be this Mercury retrograde in Gemini, right? Gemini wants truth. It wants discourse. It wants discussion. It wants to see the other side and know where they're at. And then in that, overcoming duality. And this has been such a sad thing for humanity that we can't just have an intellectual discussion of like, well, I don't know, you want to see, maybe look at it from my side. Oh, okay, yeah. And this is what's required, right? Like the ego death for all of humanity, like, oh, I was wrong. I trusted the wrong people. Now I'm sick to my stomach. I've been complicit in the nastiest gross shit that's gone on this planet and even paid for it with my tax dollars, right? We've all got to go through that. But the gift of the bounty of this getting rid of illegal taxes and debt and the way we've been enslaved financially, and free energy and miracle healing, that's got to come with the negative disclosure, right? And it's almost like there's been word of like, well, we have to have this event, and this is like this precipitating event, and it's got to get really scary humanity. And what I'm seeing is like the timeline isn't producing that anymore. See, what happens in the timeline, it's like, from what I understand, is like way back, you could have gotten this message, oh, we're going to have this big, the only way forward is to have this cataclysm, right? The only way forward is through this. And then it's like, as things harmonize out and possibilities come, it's like, no, that's not. Now we're stuck because we kind of need an event to wake people up, to jolt them out of their comatose programming. But the energies aren't supporting the war and trauma anymore. And so maybe that's why we're in a movie. Is this why our Treasury Secretary is a Hollywood film producer? Are we literally watching a movie? Is this all pantomime? And then we have to come to this point with Mercury retrograde. Mercury retrograde in Gemini is going to like explore all options and get really confused about what's true. But you can't go explore all options without at least learning something. And the deception can't go on any level, even if the deception is supportive to humanity. It's not true to where humans are at right now. It's not fair. It's not right. We can't do it anymore. No more lies. All will be revealed. So here we are, June 2021, eclipse season, and Mercury retrograde, Saturn square Uranus exact. It's now Jupiter has moved over into the sign of Pisces. And this is really interesting because we've had our last like real big Neptune transit. We're coming off now Black Moon, Lilith, sextile Neptune. And that's about like facing this inner darkness. And for the supernova soul, that inner darkness is this deep repressed guilt and shame over your failure on Earth and failure to fulfill your mission and purpose. And now it's like, stop. You're doing this subconsciously. You don't even know it's hidden deep inside of you. But guess what? Your mission and purpose hasn't yet begun. The energies have not yet been able to support you. And it's like we're starting up a new machinery, right? We've been stuck in the matrix, taken out of our timeline, stuck in this matrix. And now the cog of the organic, getting back into the organic flow of time and nature. And it's like the machinery is all stuck and corroded. And we're like, but that train is going to be moving again. And the momentum is so big and the light is so big. It's like, because all this technological control trying to keep the light out, keep us from the spiritual mystical revelation, right? And but the pressure is building. And so now Jupiter moving into Pisces is powerful because it just went over this cusp, and it'll do that 3 times of the Aquarius Pisces cusp. And this is exactly where we're at in our shift of ages. And Jupiter is associated with the Messiah, or the new spirituality trying to come in, new spiritual ideas trying to come in. And so Jupiter going over Pisces, Aquarius, it's like, you guys, come on, we're doing this. We've got to go into the new, but we can't leave the Piscean age. We got to get rid of all that trauma and grief and attack of the light worker. But we can't get out of the Piscean age without reclaiming that mystical spiritual revelation of like, and it's so different. It's like, so at the beginning of the Piscean age, it was about a whole group of souls holding a potential over hundreds of years for one person, supporting one person in incarnating Christ consciousness to demonstrate to us what this whole evolution is about. And what they had was mystical revelation, where they felt a direct presence through angelic presence and God presence, light, Yeshua, Jesus. It's like just this like, where there's, you have one moment of mystical spiritual revelation, like an interaction with an animal, or miracle healing, or, just messages coming through. You are a changed person. You can't go back into thinking that there isn't something more out there than this physical body, where they want us all attached to just the physical, right? Clinging in fear. And but that mystical revelation in the beginning of the Piscean age was definitely a force outside. Now, those same souls, thousands of souls that were worked over hundreds of years for that journey, are here at this shift of ages. And now it's about a direct incarnation of that Christ consciousness within each of us. Literally, Yeshua as a messenger of God consciousness, in the power of his soul, what he was able to overcome the physical and transmute into his light body. And it's almost like now everybody on earth has the opportunity, but particularly SuperNova Souls, to literally incarnate a piece of him, a piece of this consciousness, like walking together. It's not something outside. It's something in your heart. And this is why there's a lot of tension and struggle in the psyche of SuperNova Souls right now, because you're trying to let this light in, and you're trying to break the seals on your chakras, and you're trying to break down all those false personality constructs. And that the grief is the last piece that won't move, that to let this light into your heart. And so, but this full moon in Sagittarius is like, you guys, all that grief is completely misplaced, because it's based on lies. And if you fully face the fact that you were completely, deliberately manipulated and messed with in every incarnation, I was like, oh, we got to drop all the baggage to make this leap. And you're here on the cutting edge to be that living, breathing demonstration of what's possible. So the message is that, like, all that looks really, really bad right now is going to boomerang into the good, because it's all folding into one timeline. And everything that looks so horrible actually might be this beautiful blessing. And to sit tight and know that as an advanced soul, you're aware of the collective consciousness. You're aware of this grief trying to move in the field. You're feeling it all. And it's hard not to get sucked down into the low vibrational energies of this, grief. Grief is something, as long as you have it in there, you're going to keep going down to that vibration, right? So we don't, and this is a big problem in the spiritual community, so much emotional suppression, right? And then it's like, then I'm like, oh no, I'm back down here in this place because it's unresolved. But then you're beating yourself up. And this is the slow self-worth. SuperNova Soul, beat yourself up, oh, you failed in your mission. Oh, and then you failed to get back on your mission. And the earth's going to hell, and it's all off the rails, and it's all your fault. But this is this heavy boulder that we're moving out of the heart of these advanced souls, because we don't get through this disclosure with you still feeling like it's your fault, and all you ever came here to do was be in your full expression. So we got to get away from the idea of what exactly that looks like. How do I do it? What's the next steps? Although clarity is trying to come. And so this is the energy of this Venus North Node of like, oh, that's why I got so off my path, because this is so much better, but I didn't know yet. And I've been stuck in the eddy. This Mars Cancer just feels like, you can be swimming in circles and just pulled back down into the grief. But it's all based on lies. And eventually this is going to be revealed. And this is the chapter we're in with humanity. It's pretty powerful. Venus North Node starting out this whole Mercury retrograde. Now, Venus is what we love, what we care about. It's our feminine side. It's like what makes us feel really good. It's our deep passions for like what we really love and what we'd really like our life to be filled with. And maybe that's a powerful message, that before it was like your old construct of who you thought you were and what you were here to do is based on trying to make up for something of a failure, trying to bring the light to humanity, trying to solve the problems, trying to make it better, trying to release humanity from suffering, but in a very specific way, a specific role that you got stuck in from a past life that got interrupted. This is very different. This is about your full expression. So we got to stay away from the specifics of what that looks like, because you'll just continue to get lost in the weeds and find yourself right back in that place of grief. I don't know who I am. I don't know where I'm going. Just this, like, the Venus can bring this feeling of just like a complete, like, I just don't know who I am, and I don't know what I want, and I don't know where I'm going. And it's interesting because you look at this feeling, I can feel it viscerally in SuperNova Souls, but it's like it doesn't really fit your soul strength and how you know who you are. And what happens when that gate opens for you to start playing in the new energies? Right now, we're all squished together. You're in a straitjacket, you know, and we're examining everywhere that we gave away our power so we can step back into this light. The light is getting stronger, and everything that looks bad is boomeranging into good, because that's just where we are in the timeline. So take heart, breathe deep. We've got a weird and strange bloom of cognitive dissonance with this Mercury retrograde. We haven't even gotten there, right? It doesn't even turn retrograde till the 29th, and then it will turn direct on the 22nd of June, and it comes out of retrograde shadow July 8th. So the first week of July is when we're really going to have some resolution as far as truth, direction, purpose, what you want, who you are, what you're doing here. And what if who you are, what you are, and what you came here to do has so much to do with this part of you that hasn't quite incarnated yet, right? And then you're thinking that you can get it all figured out when you're not even whole and complete, and you don't have your God molecule back intact. We have the potential, right? So this is where we need to put our focus, is on the boomerang energy and on the light is winning, and there's no other way to go. And you're here to lead the way in that. So we got to give ourselves permission. And so much trying to resolve, but Jupiter now in Pisces is bringing us an opportunity to claim back the spiritual mystical revelation and examine the differences between the Piscean energy and the Aquarius energy, and reconcile and really move over into this Aquarian age. It's interesting though, because Jupiter doesn't go back into Pisces, it retrogrades and will go back, it retrogrades this month. It turns retrograde actually next month on the solstice. And it will then go back into Aquarius. It doesn't come back into Pisces until, get this, December 29th. So this whole year journey, 2021, is about reconciling the Aquarian age and the Piscean age. So that might help in your bigger picture of things, hopefully. Pretty powerful. That Jupiter's just at 0 degrees, moving to 1 degree, just getting into Pisces, but giving us this opportunity to expand our dreams, expand our vision, expand back into the mystical, magical thing that we're doing here. This is a spiritual experience. This is all about spiritual ascension. Everything that's blocked us, held us down, is still about spiritual ascension, because it's trying to keep us from spiritual ascension, which is boomeranging. Because when the timelines fold into one, it's all one. Right? So keeping us from spiritual ascension is pushing us into spiritual ascension. And here we are, and nothing can stop it. But pretty profound that the sun, as it moves over into Gemini from Taurus on the 20th, it will be in an exact square with Jupiter in Pisces. Now, for the equinox, the sun was with Venus. For last month, when it moved from Aries to Taurus, it was with Mercury. Now, square Jupiter. So who are we in our expression in relationship to this spiritual revelation that we lost and we gave away, and we let control and domination energies be more powerful than God consciousness? When we have this direct connection Are you ready to get out of the straitjacket? Because you were more powerful all along. You were more evolved all along. And yet we're swimming in deep, profound grief about where the world is at because we feel responsible as light workers, conscious light workers, full of love and service and devotion. And all of that has to go away, washing it all away. And the dam's about to break, and that happens with information. And so I just feel like there's been a turning of the tide, and having these bigger perspectives of what's going on is really powerful. And our voice is in tension with expanding back into the magic, our truth, the muzzling, right? But it's that boomerang time. It's all about to backfire. And maybe that's this year marker from that Venus retrograde. It's like, okay, wait a minute. Like, I'm not going to stay here in this wallowing confusion anymore. I'm going to live my life and drop all those old stories and be present with my full expression, which your path and the way it looks can't come until you incarnate this part of yourself, landing home your bigger self, which is this Christ consciousness code. It's in your DNA. It's latent. It's potential. And as the world moves into the dark truths, but also the blessings of the solutions, you are hosting this energy. And it's not about what exactly you do with it right now. It's about making room in your physical body, cellular level, breaking down the grief, dropping all the old stories, and be like, yeah, I'm not playing. I'm just not playing anymore. I did not come here for this. I know who I am now. And so this is the shift we're in. It's so incredibly profound, but just sit tight and breathe and be nice to yourself, and recognize when this grief comes up that you can soothe yourself back into this, knowing that, you've been carrying the grief of the dark forces. You've been blaming yourself and holding on to this grief. And it's time for the great redemption and humanity's great redemption, because humanity has evolved. The true human souls have evolved beyond trauma and drama. We all want the same thing: divide and conquer, race war. We're all humans. And it's time for humans to join together against non-humans who have been fucking with us this whole time. We've got the power, and you're here to demonstrate that. And it's all turning, it's all boomeranging. So just watch. It's almost like I can see this boomerang, and it's going, and it's going. It's got all this momentum, and you can slip off the side of that boomerang down back into that grief and feel stuck there, like humanity's doomed and you can't do anything to help, and you just have to sit here and watch people suicide themselves with this poison, But it's like, nope, hold tight to that light, because all that's dark is really light. It's all boomeranging and it's turning around, and you want to be on that ride. Climb your way to the front of that spaceship, and let's meet there together. So hang tight, and I look forward to connecting with you soon. I'll be doing a soul group session for this total lunar eclipse. That will be on Tuesday, the 26th, next week. So really powerful energies moving into this eclipse. I mean, Mercury retrograde at home in Gemini is one thing. Reveal, reveal, reveal. Hidden, hidden, reveal. And then eclipse season, Saturn square Uranus. So we've got a lot going on. And of course, it continues the saga. So thanks for being with me on the journey and examining these energies. And sit tight. You've been doing it right. You're doing so good. You're hanging in there. There's just know that we're in the crunch time of the squeeze of this lower matrix, but it's only making the light brighter and more powerful. And, are you ready to work in direct consort with the highest, most pure light beings? And you are one of them. And step back into that robe of glory. You know what you're doing here. You just can never put it into confines of that 3D definition of who you've been told you were. So, time to bloom out of the chrysalis into your wings. That's what these next couple of months are about as humanity learns to fly again. And so hang in there. Thank you so much for being here, being the light that you are. Hold tight to that light, be present. You are the love, and let yourself have that love. Let yourself have that nurturing. Let yourself have that compassion so we can prepare for this next phase of this disclosure operation. Welcome to the Great Awakening. So I look forward to seeing you soon. Until then, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.